Hey, what's up everybody? Today is Saturday, May 27th. It is the official opening day of Pandora, the World of Avatar. Last Saturday, I had the opportunity to visit Pandora, the World of Avatar through the annual pass holder preview program. So I just thought I would kind of give my review of what it's like. As of today, the grand opening day, I was looking online. Currently, it's like a 4-hour wait just to get inside Pandora. And then on top of that, wait times exist for things like the gift shop. I know that the Rivers of Light ride has had a 3-hour wait time, and then the wait time for the actual Banshee Flight ride has also increased well above 4 hours at some point. So I just thought I would run over kind of my review of the whole land, and I'll break it out. We'll start with what the whole Pandora land is like. We'll talk about the food, the gift shops, and then last the rides. So I'll put time markers once I hit all those parts, but we'll start out with the actual land. I've got my phone, so if you see me looking down, just some notes that I took as well as the map. So to get to Pandora, there's two ways to get to it. The first is walking in Animal Kingdom right when you get to Tiffin's, the restaurant. If you hang a left there, there's a path and it'll take you down there. The other way is if you make your way all the way to Africa, down by Festival of the Lion King, there's a path that takes you in the back way. So there's two ways to get to it. Now when you cross over and get to Pandora, the first thing you'll be taken back by is the floating mountain range. And I'll put pictures that kind of splice through and show you what I'm talking about. But the whole land is awesome. It's super hyper realistic. It kind of takes your breath away. And when you walk in, you'll see all these man-made trees, man-made floating rocks, the mountains, interlaced with all sorts of natural landscape as well. So you'll walk in, and during the preview weekend, there was 4 PhotoPass photographers, and the main PhotoPass photographer is obviously going to be right in front of the floating mountain range. And spoiler alert, if you want a picture with that PhotoPass photographer, they do a magic shot where everybody in your party will look off into the distance, and they'll insert a Banshee floating in your picture, just like this one right here that I took. So as you're walking around, unfortunately the bioluminescence of night, what they do at night where they use lights and different colored plants to kind of show the nighttime view of it, wasn't premiering for the pass holders. They kept that under wraps until today, opening night. But the whole aesthetic of the place is awesome. The size of the land, I would probably compare it to like the back half, if you're looking at Magic Kingdom's New Fantasyland, from like Ariel's all the way to the like Storybook Circus area where it's got the Dumbo ride. So that section. So that's why you've seen today on opening day that they've kind of roped it off and are only letting so many people in at a time. The actual land isn't that big itself, so there's obviously going to be some size limitations there. As you start walking around, there's all sorts of paths, all sorts of waterfalls, places to take pictures in front of. There's PhotoPass photographers in front of those areas, and it's just a cool place to just walk around and kind of take a look at things. As you're walking around, in the far right corner, there's 2 restaurants. One is a quick service sit-down restaurant, and the other is a quick service kind of like food cart, but it's a permanent outdoor station. The quick service sit-down restaurant uses a new technology within the My Disney Experience app, so you can actually order your food, and it's called the, I'm going to mispronounce it, the Satu'li canteen. So you can actually order your food ahead of time before you get there, and then kind of like similar to a Chick-fil-A app, the Chick-fil-A app, you can say that you're there and then your food is ready for you. They also have a traditional line, just like you would see at Seasons in the land in Epcot. The food there is they're claiming like a foodie's dream. It's very eclectic, very Avatar-like. Everybody that was there at the preview weekend that had different entrees loved it. The entree I tried was awesome. It definitely is not the traditional Disney World chicken nuggets, burgers, fries. It's definitely more of a unique experience. So if you're up for trying something a little bit different, definitely skip Pizzafari or some of those other standard Animal Kingdom quick service restaurants and try out the canteen. Now, right outside the canteen is another PhotoPass photographer, and that PhotoPass photographer is right under one of those big robots that you see in the movie. And you can take a picture next to it, and they also do a couple cool different angles with that. Behind that is Pangu Pangu, and Pangu Pangu is like their quick service food cart, but it's a permanent station. And what they have a lot of is both alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. The way it was equated to me by one of the cast members is it's like those Japanese drinks that have the little balls in the bottom of it. Same thing. I tried the non-alcoholic one, thought it was great. All the people that tried the alcoholic ones also commented that it was really cool flavors and very tasty. So that kind of covers the land layout as well as the food restaurant. As far as the gift shops, there's two. There's one that's a full like brick and mortar gift shop, as well as one that is a kind of gift shop stand. So the gift shop stand is located near the entrance, and it has more of, like you would see, I don't know if you're familiar, when you walk out of Animal Kingdom, right by the entrance, there's that kind of pop-up tent that's got a few little knickknacks, some of the more popular shirts, some of the more popular pens. Same thing with that gift shop. It's got all your popular pens, your shirts. If you want like an Avatar, like a Na'vi tail, they've got that. And pretty much just your main staples. Now, Wind Traders is located over by Pangu Pangu, and you can access it straight from the front right by Pangu Pangu, or if you ride the Banshee ride, it actually dumps out into the gift shop. So there's two ways to get into it. That gift shop has every Avatar branded thing you want. The most popular thing by far for kids and some adults is this little plastic Banshee that sits on your shoulder. They have all different colors and types of Banshees, and then it's controlled by this little plastic tubing that goes to a joystick, and you can move your fingers on the joystick and it makes that Banshee turn to you or look up and down or flap its wings. It's by far the most popular gift there. Other things they had at the gift shop were t-shirts. They had these little plants and beakers, like little succulents and beakers that you could buy. They had a build your own, like, I'll put a picture in, but it's like you pull all these different beads and pieces together and can make your own jewelry with it, as well as every sort of pin you could imagine that's Avatar themed, whether it's ride based, whether it's for the Ace Touring Company, or whether it's for the whole Avatar land as a whole. So those are the big two gift shops that are in the land. Today when I was reading up, I heard that there were even waits for the gift shop. It was so popular. Obviously, I think that will die down, but just something to keep in mind right now. So moving on to the rides, there's two main rides. If you don't count, a lot of people are counting the night show, what happens at night when it turns into like a bioluminescence forest. As part of the ride, I know Joe Rohde, the Imagineer, has said that if you go to Avatar, Pandora, World of Avatar, and you just think it's going to be these two rides and that's all you're looking forward to, you're definitely going to be disappointed. I can see where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's frustrating to think that people are going to put in a whole bunch of time and energy to learn the backstory of Pandora, to truly appreciate all the attention to detail. Don't get me wrong, by no means is it not amazing to look at, but I think it was a little disappointing that they only put 2 attractions into the ride. So or 2 attractions into the land. So the first attraction is the Na'vi River Journey. You load into these river boats. They're in the shape of like a wicker basket. The line queue for that today has been up to 3 hours. I'm not quite sure how a 3-hour line queue fits. When I got on the ride, it was about a 10-minute line queue. There was definitely room for it to be longer, but I don't know how quite 3 hours worth of queue is going to fit in there. But nonetheless, you load into these wicker baskets and you begin on a Na'vi River journey. The level of intensity, I would equate it to the 3 Caballeros ride at Epcot, or even Pirates of the Caribbean. It doesn't have a little drop like Pirates of the Caribbean, but same concept. The length of the ride is probably closest to the 3 Caballeros ride at Epcot. I would say maybe 3 to 5 minutes total for a ride time. You launch off on the boat, and basically the ride takes you through the entire Na'vi River. Some of the cool things you'll notice, the characters that appear, very well done. It's very impressive how they show up. The forest in there is beautiful. They use the soundtrack from the movie, obviously, which is very calming, very soothing. And then some things to check out. I'll kind of put in B-roll as I'm talking over this so you can see, but some of the things to check out are, as you ride the ride, above you there's these giant leaf petals, and you can see it's almost like the Na'vi are standing on the leaf petals or bouncing from leaf petal to leaf petal. And not only can you see their shadows from the underside, but you can also see the leaf kind of change and move as these Na'vi jump on or jump off the petal, which is very cool to look at. By far the highlight of the River Journey attraction is at the very end, where you have a, I guess the grandmotherly Na'vi, and she's playing all these forest instruments, forest leaves. The animatronic is huge, huge, probably 8 feet tall, 9 feet tall. It's super hyper realistic, and if you watch her hand movements when she plays the drums, it is super, super smooth and refined. So it's very impressive to watch on the ride. Is the ride awesome? Yes, definitely thumbs up for the ride. Is the ride worth a 3-hour wait time? Thumbs down. You will be sorely disappointed, I feel, if you wait 3 hours in line for this ride. By no means does that mean don't ever ride the ride. I would just really consider waiting 3 hours for it. I think it would definitely jade your impression of the ride to have waited that long, get on the ride, and then feel a little let down and disappointed. Once the ride's over, it puts you back on the unloading dock, which is the same dock as the loading dock. You exit the ride, and then you kind of exit out through the rest of, back into the outside scenery. By far the biggest attraction in Pandora is going to be Avatar Flight of Passage. Now the concept of Avatar Flight of Passage is you are synced up through a simulator with an avatar, and you get to ride on a Banshee. Now your purpose for riding on this Banshee is for educational and science purposes, is what it's portrayed to you at. The ride is a simulator ride. Most closely I would resemble it to Soarin', with the same, you're watching a giant projector screen as you're flying on the back of your Banshee. Same movements as Soarin'. The only difference is the ride vehicle, instead of sitting in that chair that you're familiar with Soarin', you're sitting in a motorcycle type. So you're straddling, basically I would compare it to a motorcycle seat, like you would see at an arcade game. Now, Flight of Passage, the line queue, I've heard People talk when I was there saying that the line queue can hold anywhere people for 3 to 5 hours, which is an ungodly amount of time for waiting in the line queue. With that being said, it is a very, very, very impressive and immersive queue. By far, one of the most impressive queues at Disney World. The queue takes you through 3 different zones. The first being you're outside and you're walking around. You're kind of getting more of that Pandora landscape and Pandora feel. The second is you're now, I don't know if you remember in the movie where they had that remote lab in the jungle. That's the second zone. And then the third zone is the actual scientific lab. And inside the scientific lab, I'm going to put pictures over it so you can see what I'm talking about. It is so cool. There's so much attention to detail going on. Not only do you see all this lab equipment, all this testing that they're doing, but you probably get to see the crown jewel of the ride queue, which is this huge, huge avatar that is floating in this submersive water tank. It's crazy. It moves. You can see muscles tense. You can see the entire body float up and down. It is super impressive. Once you get to that point in the line queue, you're almost at the ride. You leave the science lab and then you start to line up in these rows. I'll put a picture so you can kind of see. And that's at the point where the cast members start divvying you out and grouping you together in groups of 16. And those 16 are going to be fellow passengers that you ride with on the Banshees. So people might be wondering, why is this ride take so long for a wait? And the reason is it's a single loading. From what I can tell, there's only one theater. They have to load everybody in at once, get everybody set up in their avatar link chair, make sure everything is secure. The ride starts. They go through the whole, I think the ride was about 3.5 to 4 minutes. You go through the whole ride experience, then they have to unload and reload again. So that being said, you're maybe getting 150 people through every showing. So that's why that queue is so long. It's not a continuous moving ride. There's not a continuous circulation of vehicles coming through. You're having to wait for that full section to finish, unload, the new section to reload, and then the ride to start. So that's why the queue is so long and the ride takes so long. That being said, you're grouped into 16. You're sent up into a viewing chamber where you're linked up with your avatar that you'll get to take the passage ride with. That kind of syncing up process is really cool. It's a video. There's all sorts of sensors in the room, so it makes it look like you're actually linking up. And then the only negative that I've heard people complain about with that is the guy that is the actor in the movie. You know, they did a lot of first-person camera, talking straight to the camera, narrative and journaling. Same premise when this guy is explaining to you how linking up with the avatar and the Banshee works. The only thing is the acting, people complained, was terrible. I don't know if it was intentionally done that way to make it seem like he doesn't do this full time. He's just a scientist explaining this to you. But the acting was so awkward, very uncomfortable. I'll see if I took a video, and if I did, I'll kind of play a clip of him talking. But it was really weird. It just seemed kind of unnatural and jaded for everything else being so immersive. Once you're linked up with your avatar body, you go into another chamber, kind of like you do in Mission Space, in Epcot, where they rotate you through to different zones. So then you watch another video, you get your flight goggles, and they explain a little bit about how you're going to load onto the Banshee simulator. And then once all of that is done, you actually move into load onto your Banshee. So to load onto your Banshee, you go into a room, you take all your personal belongings out, even your phone that's in your pocket, and I'll explain why in just a second, but then you load all that into a back storage wall behind you. There's little cubbies for everybody. You put in all your belongings into there, then you load onto your simulator vehicle. Like I said earlier, the simulator vehicle is kind of like a motorcycle that you would see at an arcade. So you put one leg over, scoot forward into it. It's got handlebars on the front of it. And then you scoot all the way forward into a kind of U-shaped harness that'll hit you about mid-chest. And when you scoot into that mid-chest harness, they'll make sure everybody's situated, and then they'll initiate the back harness. So the back harness comes up behind you, hits you mid-tailbone, and then they'll also initiate the calf harnesses, which hit you about mid-calf to make sure that you don't exit the vehicle while the simulator is going. So they'll say make sure you scoot all the way up into that center chest bone. Some of the cast members I've talked to encourage you to give an inch or two gap off that chest bone. The reason being is that back restraint is going to come up as far as you will let it. So if you're positioned all the way up on that chest bar, then it's going to, the back restraint will hit you, and the amount of wiggle room you have during the ride will be greatly decreased. If you give an inch or two off that chest bone, chest plate, when the back restraint comes up, it now gives you an inch or two wiggle room so you don't feel so constrained in the ride. Once everybody's situated, you'll notice in front of you there's a little screen, again kind of like Mission Space, and it talks, it shows you a picture of you, as well as it gives a linked status bar and a bunch of other lights and stuff to keep you occupied while everybody else is loading into their Banshee simulators. So you're in your room of 16, your guide or your flight leader exits the room, and then they tell you not to touch the wall in front of you or to the side of you. Once they do that, you'll see the status bar on your ride vehicle start to quickly go all the way up to 100%. A bunch of strobe lights will start flashing, and then you'll see kind of it'll go black with all these strobe lights around you. The wall in front of you begins to lift up, and then you see that you're instantly flying on the top of a Banshee all the way through Pandora. Here's the one complaint that I've heard so far about people with the ride. When those strobe lights are going up and it's all black, the door in front of you lifts open, you're looking at the screen. I'll put a picture to kind of better explain what I'm referring to, but you're looking at a screen, and what you don't realize is that the reason it took so long to load everybody is because you're in rows, probably 3 high, you're in rows of people in the same simulator as you are. So here you were the whole time thinking you were 16 people going to do the simulator. The screen comes up and you're now in this theater with probably 150 to 200 people. Again, it's not a problem because you're instantly immersed into Pandora and flying around in Pandora, but it does feel kind of, I don't want to say misleading, but you feel kind of jaded, like, oh, there's everybody else doing the simulator ride as well. So I don't know how that could be fixed. I don't think it can be fixed now. Just an observation that people have made that, you know, here's all these strobe lights, you think it's U16, and then boom, it's you. The equivalent would be in Mission Space, you load into your 4 or 5 capsule flight simulator, and then you launch off, and then the next thing you know, your simulator's not just the 5 of you anymore, it's now 200 of you. And you're like, well, okay, I get that this has to happen from a practical standpoint, but from a authentic factor, it's a petty complaint. I get that, but just something that other people have noticed. So the simulator ride, once it actually starts, you're holding on. Your Banshee, the feeling, it dives, it swoops left to right. One of the coolest feelings is when your Banshee kind of sinks like this and it goes tail first as it's going down, so you feel kind of like your stomach's going up into your chest, but not in the traditional drop sense. It's a really cool experience. Everybody enjoyed it. From a scariness factor, if you can handle Expedition Everest, you can handle easily the drop portions of the ride. That's not bad. And if you can handle Mission Space, you can easily handle the simulator aspect, getting nauseous aspect of the ride as well. So it's an intense ride, but it's by no means not doable by, you know, young kids as well. It's borderline for them, but it's not so intense, and it's not even that intense that it's not fun at all. The intensity brings fun to it, if that makes sense. The whole ride, as you're kind of dipping and going through all the different lands, lasts about 4 minutes. It seems well, I don't know if you wait 4 hours if you seem like you would get a good value out of it. I could see waiting the same length of time as Soarin' and being completely satisfied once you left the ride, feeling that you got a good value for your wait time. Cool things that happen during the ride. One is there's smells that are projected as you go through different parts of Pandora. You get these authentic smells, whether it's by the ocean, whether it's through the forest, whether it's through the savannah with these animals. You get some very cool scents that are projected. And the other thing that people mention is when you're on the ride vehicle is to go ahead and put your legs, make sure they're tight, not only against the side of the vehicle that you're straddling, but also all the way up as far as possible. The reason for that is the Banshee that you're riding at different points. So let's say you've swooped for a while and your Banshee's kind of hovering to catch its breath. You can feel from the center column that you're straddling, the Banshee breathes. So you can feel the sensation of it taking a breath and trying to catch its breath up against the side of your legs and up against your calves. So that is a super cool feeling, and people, the cast members made sure to tell you, yes, you know, like, to get the full effect of the ride, to get the full immersion, make sure that you push up all the way against those so that way you get that feeling. Okay, sorry about that. The camera overheated. But my kind of biggest complaint with the end of the ride is you're flying on the Banshee. You've gone through all of Pandora, you flew around, then you end on this big oceanscape where you see the land, you see all these different native animals and creatures on the land, and then all of a sudden it starts to reverse the strobe light and go black, and the screen comes back down in front of you. It made sense logically that that's where the ride would end. You saw it coming. The only negative I have is it just did not seem like a natural transition. It gave the same vibe off as Mission Space again, where you get to the edge of that cliff, you're teetering on the cliff in your spacecraft, and then it stabilizes out, and then it just ends right there. Yeah, it made sense from a story point of view that that's where it's ending. It just doesn't seem natural when that happens, if that makes any sense at all. Overall, the ride is a definite thumbs up. I would gauge how long I would wait for the ride, keeping in mind that this is the opening chunk of the ride and the demand's going to be increased because it's the opening chunk of the ride. I would wait however long you're willing to wait for Soarin'. Maybe add 30 to 45 minutes to that time, but that's what I would use as a good gauge, is how long I'm willing to wait for Soarin', add 30 to 45 minutes to that length. That way, you keep realistic expectations about how long you're willing to wait, and I think you'll enjoy the experience more if you don't have to wait as long. Now, is there stuff for you to take in and engage with in the queue? Yes, absolutely, you can do that. Will you get tired of doing that by the 4th or 5th hour of waiting? Yes, absolutely. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding how long you're wanting to wait for the ride. Overall, Avatar Land, giant thumbs up. I think the biggest thing that I had to realize when going through Avatar Land is it's just one component of all of Animal Kingdom. I think a lot of people, partly based on the hype that was built up about the land, whether it be through the media, bloggers, or Disney themselves, is a lot of people expected that Pandora was going to be not the size of another theme park, but a lot bigger than it was. When you keep Pandora in perspective of Africa, Asia, or the old Camp Mini Mickey or Dino Land USA, it's probably one of the best lands in Animal Kingdom. When you start to view it as its own park, you're going to be disappointed because, again, it's those 2 rides, a gift shop, 2 restaurants, and then the whole immersive planet vibe of the land that you get to walk through. Do I think Joe Rohde's right in the sense if you just go for the 2 rides, you'll be disappointed? Not 100%. The rides are great. The Navi River journey, I think, from a Disney enthusiast looking at the animatronics, looking at what they've been able to do with projection technology and the scenery, you'll be impressed. But if you're with a family of 5 and you've got 3 and 4-year-olds and you wait 3 hours for that ride, you definitely will be disappointed. Do I think it's realistic for Disney to assume, and especially the Imagineers to assume, that people are going to be as immersed in the story as they anticipate or design the land for? No. I do commend them and applaud them for developing so much detail into the land, but I don't think it's realistic to assume for the average vacationer to dive into the backstory, to dive into the history, to dive into some of the nuances of the land. I again commend them for paying that much attention to the detail, but thinking that your average guest is going to get that much out of it is a bit misleading on their part. The last 2 things I'll kind of touch on. One is all the cast members that work there. The backstory behind it is they have all visited Pandora themselves. They're kind of expats, and they're your Navi guides. So it's a cool concept, and it's also cool. I don't know if they'll give it out. I'm sure during the opening of Pandora they will. I'm not sure if that will continue, but they gave us out these little booklets that had some of the Navi language in it and different phrases. So you'll hear cast members say hello, how are you, you know, all these different basic Navi language phrases to you. If you ask some of them about the phrases, they'll be able to tell you about them, which is definitely cool and definitely an immersive part of the experience, that they have this language that they use. So overall, Pandora, World of Avatar, giant thumbs up. Definitely check it out. Set realistic expectations of what you're willing to wait for the ride, and I definitely think you'll have a great time. So I realize this was an extremely long review. You probably didn't make it to the end, but I hope you guys found something interesting about it, and it maybe helped you a little bit when you're planning your trip to go to Pandora and check it out. So I'll see you in the next video.